We've always told ourselves stories about creation. It's just part of who we are. Today, we're going to look at two fascinating versions of that same story. One is ancient, involving a mystic by a muddy river, literally pulling life from cold, wet earth. And the other, well, it's our modern age, with a visionary assembling life from the sterile gleam of silicon and wire. It's this incredible, timeless tale about our deep-seated ambition to bring the inanimate to life.
This right here, this is the heart of our entire journey today. The idea that whether we're using ancient magic or cutting-edge tech, that fundamental human drive, that restless, unshakable need to create, to breathe life into something that has none, is exactly the same. Let's see if that really holds up.
Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to trace this incredible parallel journey. We'll start with the creator's ambition, then look at their materials and the language they use. We'll check out their tools, try to understand the why behind their creations, and finally, we'll see how it all ends, with that inevitable return to dust. So let's meet our two creators. I mean, on the surface, they couldn't be more different, right? Separated by centuries, by entire worldviews. One's on the banks of a muddy river, the other's in a sterile modern lab. But as we're about to see, they are united by the exact same powerful ambition. Just look at this incredible contrast. On one side, you've got this primal, almost elemental scene, a rabbi using the earth itself with his own hands to create. And on the other, a clean, precise, sterile lab, all silicon and wire. One is an act of faith, the other is an act of science, but both are reaching for the very same miracle. So this brings us to the actual materials. Let's dig into how this shift from good old-fashioned clay to hypermodern silicon really changes the nature of creation itself. It's a journey from the organic to the purely synthetic. The materials themselves almost seem to carry the creator's intent. The golem's clay is so humble, so organic, pulled from the earth to mold a man, a protector. But the stuff we use today is different, isn't it? Silicon and wire are precise, they're synthetic. They're products of pure intellect, used to assemble a mechanical bird, a performer designed to be perfect. But okay, once you have the material, how do you actually flip the switch and give it life? You need instructions, you need a language. And this, right here, is where the parallels get truly mind-blowing, as we trace a line from sacred ancient text all the way to modern source code. In the world of the mystic, language wasn't just for describing things. People believed it was for creating them. This idea of linguistic alchemy basically held that the holy letters were the universe's actual DNA. I mean, just imagine believing that if you just knew the right combinations of letters, you could literally speak new realities into existence. Wild. And this perfectly captures how that idea evolved. The Shem was a sacred name on a piece of parchment. It was essentially the golem's operating system, placed in its mouth to bring it online. Today, well, the parchment is a screen, and the sacred name is source code, but the function is absolutely identical, to provide the rules that animate the inanimate item. We've basically traded the language of heaven for the language of logic, but deep down, we still kind of hold this belief that the world is a book, a code, just waiting for some master with the right key to come along and rewrite its pages. So let's talk about the tools. How do these creators actually get the job done? How do you possibly bridge that massive, massive gap between a lump of inert matter and something that looks and acts like it's alive? You can see the shift so clearly right here. The mystics' tools were prayers and scrolls, and the method was physical, it was intimate, literally shaping dust by hand. The scientists' tools are logic and electricity, and the method is abstract, designing things like artificial neural networks. But despite all those differences, both of them are acting as a kind of second creator, trying to replicate a divine act. Now we have to ask the big question, why? What's the point of all this? What purpose are these incredible human-made servants actually built to serve? And the answer, it turns out, reveals a lot about our own changing ambitions as a species. The golem was born out of pure necessity. It was a protector, a living wall of clay built to shield the people of the Joseph from persecution. The clockmaker's bird, on the other hand, is born from a desire for perfection. It's an artist, an automaton designed to sing more perfectly than any living creature ever could. This shows a real shift from creating for survival to creating for transcendence. And here's the sobering reminder. No matter how incredible our creations get, whether it's a protector made of clay or a singer made of gears, they are an artifice. an imitation. At the end of the day, they're just as mortal as the materials they're made from.
And that brings us to our final stop on this journey, the end. Because for every single act of creation, there has to be an act of, well, uncreation. The cycle has to close, and every creation has to return to the elements it was summoned from. The end for the golem is actually really quiet and poetic. The creator simply takes back the animating word, the Shem, and the living giant just collapses. It goes back to being what it always was, a pile of mud in a dusty synagogue attic. The magic is just gone. And the modern version? It's less mystical for sure, but it's just as final. The clockmaker has to take his creation apart. The bird is unmade. Its intricate gears and wires lose their purpose, and they're scattered back into a drawer, just a collection of inert, lifeless parts once more. And so all of this really leads us to one final, huge question. We've seen the parallels from clay to silicon, from sacred names to source code. We've gotten so much better at mimicking life. But what are we really chasing? Can our logic and electricity, our silicon and our code, ever truly replace the uncodable mystery of a biological soul? It really seems like the restless heart of the creator still has a long, long way to go before it finds that answer.